I bet that you never thought Cardano would flirt with XRP, let alone try to steal Bitcoin's thunder. But buckle up, because that quiet, nerdy chain just crashed the coolest parties in crypto, and, well, nobody really saw it coming. Seriously, if Cardano pulls this off, everything that you thought or think that you know about DeFi could actually flip faster than a meme coin in a bull run. Okay, so picture this. I'm sitting on my couch last night scrolling headlines halfway through a bowl of popcorn that definitely should have been my dinner. And I stumble on Charles Hoskinson. This is the guy who usually tweets about philosophy and goats, dropping a bomb about hooking up XRP with Cardano. Now, within seconds, I'm speed dialing my crypto buddies like, guys, the 𝗕𝗘𝗪𝗔𝗥𝗘 has just merged, right? And because if you've even spent a day in this space, you know that XRP and Cardano have kind of existed in their own like echo chambers, each convinced that they're the future while politely ignoring each other at the blockchain buffet. The headline was the equivalent of seeing your shy friend suddenly propose on stage at a Metallica concert. It's just jaw-dropping, it's confusing, but you just simply can't look away. So let me unpack the juicy bits then, because this isn't just two chains holding hands. We're actually talking about unlocking what Hoskinson claims to be $140 billion worth of, well, fresh value. And that's billions with a B. That kind of number makes your phone battery kind of drop just reading it. So according to Charlie, yeah, I'm calling him Charlie now, the plan is to kind of graft a smart contract layer into the XRP ledger. So think of the XRP ledger as that kind of sleek, high-speed sports car that's been cruising the highway for a decade, but never quite bothered to add cup holders. Well, Cardano shows up like, hey, you want a cup holder, heated seats, and maybe a rooftop jacuzzi? Suddenly, that sports car becomes a full-blown party bus. Now, before your skeptic radar goes haywire, remember, Cardano isn't just your daydreamer. Now, Hoskinson told Bitcoins.com Frederick, that Cardano's already tinkering with a computational layer for XRP. And that's fancy speak for a sidecar that lets DeFi apps run like at least apps like lending and borrowing and yield farming, straight onto the XRP engine without actually derailing the legendary speed. If you're an XRP holder who's kind of spent the last decade yelling utility, anyone who will actually listen, guess what? Your wish that you just, your wish list actually got an express ticket. But here's the spicy twist. Cardano isn't just flirting with one chain. Oh, no. It's actually sliding into Bitcoin's DMs too. Now, Hoskinson basically said, why stop at XRP? Let's strap DeFi to the OG king and call it a day. His claim, Bitcoin DeFi could balloon to 4 times the combined total value locked on Ethereum and Solana. So let's do some quick math then, shall we? ETH plus Solana TVL sits around $73.5 billion right now. Multiply that by 4 and you're staring at almost $300 billion. Now that's kind of like telling someone that you'll build a skyscraper taller than the next kind of 3 tallest buildings combined. It's pretty wild, it's borderline arrogant and strangely believable coming from a guy who turns math papers into, well, blockchains. So what makes Charlie so confident then? And it's kind of the shared UTXO DNA between Bitcoin and Cardano. So imagine Lego pieces from 2 different sets that magically click because, well, the studs line up. And that's the kind of compatibility that we're talking about here, right? Cardano kind of thinks that it can build a smart contract overpass without bulldozing Bitcoin's base layer, preserving security while spinning up DeFi roller coasters. It's pretty ambitious, it's borderline cocky, and exactly the kind of moonshot thinking that crypto Twitter lives for. So let me just pause here for a quick reality checkpoint then, because crypto is notorious for big promises. Remember when we were all supposed to be buying coffee on the Lightning Network by 2018? Yeah. Me neither. So is this Cardano, XRP, Bitcoin love triangle just another kind of marketing fling or the start of a DeFi renaissance? To kind of figure that out, we've got to zoom in on the problem that nobody wants to brag about. And that's liquidity silos. Now, value is trapped inside separate blockchains like gold coins in isolated treasure chests. Now, you can kind of peek through the glass and kind of see the sparkle, but good luck trying to spend it without someone else swapping or wrapping or paying for the bridge gods. Then enters Hoskinson with the kind of crowbar to those chests. Now, by bolting Cardano's programmable plumbing onto the speed of XRP and the security of Bitcoin, he's basically pitching a cross-chain amusement park where you can ride the XRP roller coaster, stop for a snack in ADA land, and finish off with a Bitcoin fireworks show, all on a single ticket. And because DeFi thrives on liquidity, the prospect of unlocking an extra $140 billion from XRP holders alone is like dumping a tanker of rocket fuel onto Cardano's ecosystem. Suddenly, ADA can muscle its way into the top TVL charts, and chains, and no one will remember the ghost chain jokes. Now, of course, skeptics are lining up with pitchforks sharper than gas fees in 2021. They'll point out that Cardano is still building Hydra, still rolling out governance upgrades and polishing that elusive dApp store that everyone keeps asking about. Adding XRP and Bitcoin DeFi sounds like piling tasks onto an already overflowing sprint board. Now, Charles, however, insists his squad has spent years engineering modularity precisely so that they can layer new features without turning the kind of base chain into spaghetti code. Now, he claims that Cardano's research-first approach has actually been prepping for this multi-chain conquest all along. And here is where the story hits personal turf. If you've ever tried to bridge funds from one chain to another, swapping, wrapping, unwrapping, signing 3 approvals, and paying MetaMask doesn't, or at least praying I should say, that MetaMask doesn't freeze, you'll know the user experience is like assembling IKEA furniture blindfolded. Now, I once moved USDC from Polygon back to Ethereum's mainnet, and by the time that the transaction cleared, I had paid more fees than the coffee machine that I was saving up for. Now, if Cardano can turn that 3-hour ordeal into 3 clicks, I'll send Charles a thank you meme basket myself. Alright then, let's talk numbers, because numbers make headlines stick. Now, Hoskinson estimates that Bitcoin DeFi could dwarf everything, 4 times Ethereum plus Solana combined. Now, that's kind of like saying the next Marvel movie will outsell the entire franchise box office in one weekend. It's audacious, but it's not impossible if the hype machine roars loud enough. Meanwhile, of course, that $140 billion figure for XRP, it comes from tallying up dormant liquidity waiting for yield opportunities. So think of it as gold bars sitting in Grandma's attic, except Grandma is a global network of payment rails dying for a DeFi makeover. There's a kind of meta gameplay angle here too. Cross-chain DeFi isn't just about profits, it's about a user acquisition war. Ethereum's first mover advantage keeps devs glued to Solidity like duct tape, but users will chase the highest yields. So if Cardano becomes the only gateway to farm Bitcoin liquidity or stake XRP in a lending pool, guess where the degens will flock? And that's exactly right. They'll hunt yield harder than bargain shoppers on a Black Friday. More transactions, more value locked, more eyeballs on Cardano's brand. Hoskinson is basically building a Trojan horse made of pure, APY. But let's not gloss over the hurdles. Engineering secure smart contracts on Bitcoin requires creative workarounds like sidechains or rollups. Integrating XRP's consensus with Cardano's proof of stake might resemble trying to fuse a Tesla battery into a Harley Davidson. It's possible, sure, but you're going to need a wicked good mechanic. Then there's the elephant in the room, regulation. Ripple's battles with the SEC may be cooling, but US policymakers still kind of treat anything DeFi like radioactive. And Cardano's legal team will need nerves of steel. Yet, crypto history rewards the bold. So remember when everybody laughed at wrapped Bitcoin on Ethereum? Well, today there's over $8 billion parked in WBTC. People scoffed at stablecoins, and now Circle's execs probably have their own moon bases. So if Hoskinson's computational layer vision sounds crazy, well, crazy is practically a prerequisite for building the future. Now, some of you might be thinking, this is a cool story, but how do I position myself? Now, I don't offer financial advice. In fact, none of this is financial advice. But if you do believe that Cardano can crack cross-chain DeFi, then you might consider dollar cost averaging into ADA and snagging a little XRP for a little synergy play. And hey, if you like catching early trades, then go ahead and check out Blowfin. There's a link in the description down below. I've been playing around on that exchange for a few months, and the UI feels pretty smooth, and smoother than maybe even a fresh jar of Nutella, if you know what I mean. Plus, they're actually tossing perks at new traders like confetti. And speaking of perks, if you haven't joined our free crypto Discord server yet, you're missing half the jokes. There's a link in the description down below too, and it's kind of where we kind of share chart memes, debate layer 1 dreams, and occasionally live stream my dog barking at Fed rate announcements. It's a it costs $0, and you might actually leave with alpha that actually makes sense. Okay, so back to the regularly scheduled intrigue, right? The climax of this narrative, it actually hits when you realize Cardano could pivot from the academic blockchain to the everything bridge. If that happens, the next bullish cycle, kind of blue chip roaster, actually could look wildly different. So imagine CoinMarketCap's top 10 showing ADA rubbing shoulders with Bitcoin DeFi derivatives, while XRP value and volumes kind of surge because whales are parking liquidity in Cardano pools. It's the kind of crypto equivalent of Apple announcing that they're making electric bikes. No one asked for it, but everyone wants it. But outcomes here, they hinge on execution, not on tweets. Right, Cardano's devs, they need to ship that computational layer without introducing exploits. Security auditors will kind of nitpick every line the way that I scrutinize sushi ingredients, mainly because of my celiac disease. And liquidity kind of providers must trust new bridges won't rug them. So the community has to stay patient when timelines slip, and they will slip. This is crypto, not Swiss kind of watchmaking. So if those pieces kind of do click though, right, we might actually witness the largest DeFi migration since DeFi summer, which turned yield farming into a national sport. So just picture yourself in December of 2027, right? Sipping coffee, scrolling the morning dashboard, and ADA at $20. Bitcoin DeFi TVL flirting with $300 billion, and your once ignored XRP bag finally earning yield comparable to blue chip protocols. You nudge your friend and say, remember when we thought Cardano was boring? That's the plot twist that Hoskinson is betting on here, and I can't decide if it's genius, madness, or the perfect ratio of both. Now, in the meantime, let's keep tabs. Watch GitHub commits, lurk in those governance forums, listen to the dev AMAs. Crypto rewards curiosity and punishes kind of spectatorship. And while we're kind of digging here, drop in the Discord and tell me whether you think ADA's $20 moonshot is just talk or is it a done deal. We'll debate, we'll sling memes, and maybe even run a poll at the end in a surprise kind of giveaway. You never know, right? Because who doesn't love three things when it comes to crypto. All right, let's go ahead and tie this saga into a nice, neat bow. Cardano is courting two giants, XRP and Bitcoin. The goal? Strap on a smart contract jetpack, siphon trapped liquidity, and become the de facto DeFi highway of a multi-chain future. That's money on the table, $140 billion from XRP and potentially 300-ish billion from Bitcoin DeFi. If they pull it off, ADA's price, Cardano's TVL, and the entire competitive landscape could shift harder than my chair after too much coffee. Now, if you could also spark a domino effect, right? It really could, forcing every other layer one to up its cross-chain game or risk fading into obscurity.